Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back. So today I got another interesting video for you guys. Today I'm going to talk about a stock that I'm not holding at the moment, but I'm considering picking up. And I really like making these videos because I want to give you guys something new, right? I don't want to just talk about the same things over and over again. With this being said though, please don't invest based on what you hear from a YouTube video alone. This is not financial advice. But I'm potentially happy to give you just reference and pointers and just put something on your radar. But if you're gonna buy or sell a stock, please do your own research first. But anyways, the stock that I'm gonna talk about today is, of course, like the title of the video suggests, it is Netflix. Now, I know I'm going to get some comments being like, okay, if a stock is so interesting to you, why haven't you bought it already? So let me just address that question very quickly. So first of all, I'm sure this applies to most of you. I, like many other people, don't have infinite amounts of money. So we're all working under financial constraints. And under those financial constraints, you do have to pick and choose what stocks deserve a place in your portfolio. So oftentimes there is no specific reason why I'm not holding a stock, even if I find it interesting, because you got to pick and choose, right? And sometimes though there is a specific reason, and if I do have a situation like that where I find a stock interesting, but there's a reason why I haven't bought it, well, in that case, I'll be sure to include it and address it in the video itself. So, hold your questions till the end of the video is what I'm saying. But okay, with that out of the way, let's jump right into it. So I'm sure you guys know what Netflix is and what it does already, so there's no need for me to explain it. Now, Netflix did report their earnings a couple of weeks ago, and the stock took a huge dump after the earnings because they missed on revenue, although they did beat EPS quite nicely. But what's even more impressive than the EPS beat was the subscriber growth. Now, if you were to ask me what is the most important metric on Netflix, I would say that is subscriber growth and not EPS or revenue. Okay, so if you got subscriber growth, everything else comes naturally, assuming that you don't make egregious mistakes or anything like that. If you just price the service super low at dirt cheap prices, yes, you will get a lot of subscribers, but you will do bad on revenue and EPS. So we definitely don't want that if you're considering Netflix stock, if you're considering becoming a shareholder. But I think Netflix has been in the game for long enough such that they're not going to make mistakes like that. Like, they have their own pricing strategy and they've been in the game. They know how to price the service such that they can make a decent profit margin. And the subscriber data from the last report, it was absolutely shocking. Okay, so, and I don't say that lightly. Netflix added 5.89 million net additions to their subscriber count, while analysts only predicted 2.1 million net additions. So that's almost 3x the consensus estimates. Now, I don't know why this was missed on Wall Street and Wall Street just didn't get the memo or they didn't care because, again, the stock dumped afterwards. But maybe this was attributed to the fact that Netflix was cracking down on password sharing, which a lot of people were angry about, and maybe it's like the old users who canceled and they're coming back. But regardless, this is a huge beat, and I think this should have been taken a lot more seriously, and Wall Street just kind of ignored it and brushed it off. And again, before you accuse me of being some sort of Netflix corporate shill, I was right there with you, right? And I gotta tell you, I was super angry when Netflix cracked down on password sharing because, I was sharing, admittedly, I was sharing an account with some friends and stuff, right? Like, I'll admit that. But I also eventually admitted defeat and resubscribed to Netflix when the new season of Black Mirror came out. And from the looks of it, a lot of you were right there with me, okay? So, don't call me, a shill or a scab or whatever people use these days. I did resubscribe to Netflix, but, judging from the numbers, a lot of you did it too. So I actually, when I resubscribed though, I opted for the ad-supported tier, which costs $8 a month. So this is ironic because that's what Netflix used to cost before, in the past, and they didn't have ads back then. But I gotta say though, the ad-supported tier is a real winner. So you maybe get like 3 or 4 30-second ads for a hour-long show, which is about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes of watching ads for every hour of content. So that's like basically almost nothing. That's not that big of a deal in my opinion. So if you compare this to cable TV, which is it'll give you maybe like 5 to 10 minutes of ads for a 20 minutes of a show. This is still like way better than cable TV. And the ad-supported tier is a good value too, in my opinion, because I was paying more than double that for the ad-free version before, and now I'm paying the $8 a month, which is pretty cheap for what you're getting, in my opinion. So my point is that sometimes you can't be too emotional when it comes to these type of things, right? A lot of people were emotional and they were angry at Netflix for this ad-supported tier and making you watch ads and cracking down on password sharing. Like that was the main thing. But at the end of the day, the consumers are going to vote with their dollars, and the money is going to flow to the best product or service, right? And I think with this ad-supported tier, Netflix really, again, they do have a real winner on their hands, in my opinion. And for those of you who have been watching this channel for a long time, you know that I have not been a huge fan of Netflix in the past, but I have to admit that I was wrong. One of the hardest skills to learn in the stock market is to admit that you're wrong when you're wrong. So I'm trying to practice that, and I'm officially flip-flopping on my position on Netflix. I'm seriously surprised by how much the stock dropped again after the earnings report, because I thought that it was really great, and Wall Street should really give Netflix some credit for the subscriber growth, in my opinion. Lastly, to address the valuation of the company, I know someone is going to go in the comments and bring up the valuation of Netflix and be like, hey, look at the forward PE of Netflix. Is that like 30, mid-30s, 36, I think last time I checked. The company is super overvalued, blah, 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 right? And what I have to say to that is that it's not that simple, okay? So trust me, I wish the stock market was just as simple as looking at the forward or trailing PE. And if the PE is above a certain point, you go, oh, this stock is overvalued, I'm not going to buy it. If it's under a certain point, you go, oh, it's undervalued, I'm going to buy it. It does not work like that at all, okay? So I've seen this mistake being made over and over again, where people only look at a few metrics and they get too caught up on the numbers and ignore everything else, and they get burned 100% of the time. Either they think that the stock is overvalued and they don't buy it, and then the stock keeps on skyrocketing and they wonder why, or they buy something that has a super low PE and it turns out that it's a value trap. So yeah, again, it's not that simple. Don't invest like that. So if you look at the historical trends of Netflix, Netflix has always had an extremely high PE. They're a technology company with very little overhead. The servers, they use AWS and everything is super efficient. They don't do the DVD thing anymore, so they don't have to ship any physical things to your house. So that cuts down a lot on, because they don't have to deliver a physical product. A company like that is going to have a super high PE, just quite frankly, right? Because their margins are super high. So the PE is not a big concern for me when it comes to Netflix. But circling back to the original question posed at the beginning of the video, is there something that is holding me back from buying Netflix? And I guess the only thing that I'm slightly uncomfortable with is the fact that Netflix shows can be a success or a failure depending on how the market reacts, right? And there's no real way to actively predict if a show is going to be popular or not. So, for example, Stranger Things was really good. Black Mirror was really good. I think they were both really critically acclaimed shows. But The Witcher used to be good, and I'm hearing that people really didn't like season 3, and also Henry Cavill is leaving the show, which is going to have a huge negative impact on the show, because he was the main star, and a lot of people watch the show particularly because of him and how good of a job he's done playing Geralt of Rivia on The Witcher. And yeah, if he's leaving, then the future of the show is kind of hanging in the balance. And as a shareholder, you're kind of taking a gamble on Netflix's ability to continuously have good exclusive content. And this kind of reminds me a bit about the console wars, back in the, mid 2010s or early 2000s or late 2000s, I should say. This reminds me of the console wars between Microsoft Xbox and Sony PlayStation, where Xbox had a lot of exclusive games like Halo, while PlayStation also had some exclusive titles like The Last of Us, for example. So the success of the console sales were in large part influenced by how many exclusive titles each console had, and of course the quality of the exclusive titles, whether people actually like them or not. So if you, let's say, wanted to play The Last of Us, back then when the game originally came out, I think now you can play it on PC, but when the game originally came out, you can only play it on PlayStation. So you had to get a PlayStation if you wanted that game. So, exclusive titles help boost the sales, right? And I'm seeing a similar kind of thing with the streaming service, where if there's an exclusive show where you can only watch it on Netflix, well, then that's going to be a big reason why people shell out their money for Netflix as opposed to anything else, because competition is heating up, right? So I'm a prime example of this, where I really like Black Mirror, the series, and the latest season was what convinced me to come back after I canceled in protest because I didn't like their password cracking down thing, right? So yeah, but what if I don't like the newer shows though, right? So if I don't like the newer shows, I might decide to cancel and then come back when a new show gets released. And you might have a lot of people that are in the same camp where they might resubscribe for a few months just to watch their show, watch their favorite show, and then they're like, okay, I've watched all the ones I wanted to watch. I'm gonna cancel for another 6 months until the next season of my favorite show comes back on. So I think this kind of start-stop mentality is gonna maybe hurt the bottom line of Netflix somewhat. And worst case, if they don't produce a show that I like, I might never return. Right? So again, my concern is that this risk is hard to predict and hard to quantify because there's no way for you to know that a show, for Netflix to know that a show is going to be popular or not if they haven't piloted the episodes, right? They have to actually film it and expend plenty of time and effort to actually film the show and then air the show, and then if people don't like the project, well, they've just wasted millions and millions of dollars. But all that aside, all in all, I like what I'm seeing from Netflix so far, and this is definitely a stock that I'm watching, and maybe I'll add at some point. I don't know. So I'm still thinking about it. What do you guys think? Leave it down in the comments. I'd love to know your opinions on this. So be sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed the content, and consider subscribing if you like this channel. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. I'll leave a link down below for my Twitter page. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.